It's about time because we're going there.
Hi, friends. Welcome back to another episode of We're Going There. This month is something a little different. I like to keep our podcast listeners on their toes. So whether you are watching on YouTube or listening to the podcast, welcome to We're Going There. I am your host, Bianca Juarez. And this month, I am going to bring content not from me, but from someone who I love dearly. On today's episode, I'm actually going to be pilfering from a conversation that I had by inviting my twin sister, Jasmine, to share some wisdom to some leaders here at our congregation at Revere Church. Now, I get it. You might be listening to the podcast and saying, this doesn't sound like usual podcast material. I know it's not, and I don't care. Why? I feel like the content is so great on dealing with emotional awareness, emotional maturity, and structure that's needed for us to rise as leaders. So whether you are a leader in your community, at your church, on your college campus, or even in your home, I think the content that Jasmine brings is valuable. And I don't want to gatekeep. I don't want to keep it just to myself or to the amazing leaders here at Revere Church. I want to share it with you. So grab your notebooks, grab your pens. Some of the content might feel a little directed at Revere, but I'm going to encourage you. The content that she shares is phenomenal. So join us in for this podcast. And if anything has been a gift to you, or there's a tidbit that you want to share, or a snippet that you like, go ahead and tag at Jasmine Star on social media or at Bianca Juarez Official. And we would love to share those posts with our friends. Enjoy this episode, and I can't wait for part 2 that releases tomorrow. Oh yes, friends, it is so good. We're coming not with 1 episode, but with 2. Hope you enjoy. I have a twin sister. I speak about her in stories on Sundays, more oftentimes than not in a negative way. Because she's like, I'm hood and she's holy. She's business, I'm Bible. But today, I have tried getting Jasmine to speak at Revere. She shoots me down all the time. She's like, that's what you and Daddy do. I don't. That's not my jam. I don't talk about the Bible. I talk about business. And she takes entrepreneurs from being thousandaires to millionaires and from millionaires to multimillionaires. She's a sought-after speaker. She's a consultant. She's a people developer. She is a money multiplier. And people will ask and get in line to invite her to speak at their conferences, to consult for their organizations, to come and do one-on-one. She leads masterminds. And no matter how many times I have asked her to please come and speak at Revere, she's always said no. I gave up asking. She spoke one time at a women's conference and she said, absolutely never again, not for me. She said, never again. She yelled it just in case anybody didn't hear. She said, never again. And it was so good. Tell her it was good. She walked away. She's like, that was horrible. I still remember you taught on Joshua. A little incorrect, but that's okay. It's okay. That's my job, not yours. So please imagine my shock as I was talking to Jasmine about this class and how this class is actually the thing that's bringing me the most life. When I take a look at our church, it's this, and it's you. Yes, we had 3,000 people at Easter. Yes, we had 1,700 people on Mother's Day. This, as we'll discover in State of the Church, is our church. And when Jasmine heard about this course and she heard about some of the things that we are stepping into and some things that we are needing, specifically in the role of an executive director, some churches might call it an executive pastor, an XP, Jasmine was like, I need to come in and talk. I about passed out. I said, you want to come? So will you do me a favor? Here at church, we like to give honor up, honor down, and honor all around. Can you please stand to your feet and honor Jasmine Star de la Torre as she comes in and shares with us at Leading for the Long Haul. I love you so much. And no, we did not coordinate our outfits intentionally. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Now, to be fair, for the women who did go to the ladies' event, I didn't think it was all that bad, but I just clearly know, all good. The pulpit is a place of power. And it is a power that I have deep respect for. So it's not that I don't want to come and pour into people. It is just that I know with all humility, I cannot touch this. I cannot touch this. I love empowering and serving the church. But I stand up here today as a leader of an organization. And so I am going to talk to members of the church and tell you that the best churches are run like organizations. Now, the church is not an organization. It's not. But the best churches are run like organizations. So what I would love to speak to y'all today, and this is going to be a conversation. This is not, and I know here at Revere, people talk back.
People talk back to Bianca all the time, and I love that. And I want to continue that. I come in as an outside observer of the power that is this church. And if I have a God-given ability to speak into organizations and speak into you, then far be it from me to ever hold that into myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay a case, and I'm going to lay facts. What this church does with those facts is entirely on you. And when I mean you, I mean you. I mean you, I mean you, I mean you, I mean you, and I mean you. Y'all are the leaders. And when and I refer to her as my sister because I know it's like Pastor B, I know, but I was like, well, my sister, because that's who she is. When my sister stands on stage and she says she doesn't want a big church and she wants big people, I will tell you, hand to heaven, that's the truth. Yeah. And so what we want to do now is me being her sister, being like, is that what you really mean? Let me loose. Let me loose. Let me loose. Okay, so today what I would love for us to speak about, for you to know, to empower you as being a leader and supporting leaders, is how do you judge a leader? Oh yeah, I said judge. Well, we don't judge. Listen, vengeance is mine, says the Lord, but I can be petty. Okay, Bianca's mad because we go on walks. So we wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and we walk. And so Bianca was telling me about how these people will leave these really mean comments about her, about women in the church, about this church. And Bianca, the nice twin, is like, I just can't believe that they say that. I was like, girl, you need to screenshot them. Save them all, put them out on Instagram, stand up at church and be like, bloop, bloop, bloop. And Bianca's like, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. I'm like, we can't be petty, baby. So be careful. When we say that she is the good twin and the nice twin, I am not being disparaging to myself. I am just being honest. I am standing on the pulpit saying, I know who I am. And I am getting to heaven by osmosis of my twin. Okay, so how can you become accountable to a leader? How can you become supporting of a leader? And how do you follow well? If you want to be a leader, you will know how to follow well. That's what I want at the end of this. So, revered church, when we talk about 3,000 people at Easter, 1,700 people on Mother's Day, looking like a club in Brea on a Sunday morning just to get a chair in the real service. Yes, I said that. We have to ask ourselves, there's got to be, what? It is true. I see on social media, I was like, this is like back in the day in the 90s in New York, you had to take an egg to like the hottest clubs. Only people who had an egg, like, we know. And it's like this line out here, this line around the block, it just looked like swag, y'all. Let's just be real, right? Easter morning, people lining up like it's Disneyland. Like, that's your church. That's your church. That's your church. So together, after me, can you say, that's my church? That's right. That's right. Because what I'll do is I'll hype you up. Revere is top 5% of churches in America. Clap it up. That's right. That's right. This is a fact. This is a fact. It is a fact of congregants, children, location, revenue. I said I was going to talk about an organization. I'm going to talk about an organization. This is top for 5% of churches in America. And Revere is at the bottom 5% of structural support. I know. Well, like I said, I came to say what I'm going to say. So the question then becomes, if this is a top 5% church with bottom 5% support, what might it look like for that support structure to change? What could y'all do? What could this church do if we built the support not for the lead pastor, Bianca, for the lead pastor that is your child, your grandchild, your niece, your nephew, or your daughter's friend, the neighbor who you decided to bring to VBS, that the seed was planted that then becomes an associate pastor at the church? How do we build a church that is not for 2025? How do we build a church for 2055? That's the conversation I would like to have today. So, I'm getting intimidated when people talk back to me and say, preach. I'm not preaching. I'm not preaching. Lord, I am not preaching. I don't want the accountability. I don't want the judgment. I saw my daddy. I see what my sister goes through. I don't want pastor judgment. Lord, bless me. I don't want those trials. let's just have a real conversation. I will probably say this wrong, but executive pastor, basically, y'all can call it whatever you want. You can call it vice president pastor, the vice pastor, whatever. Y'all get to name the name. But what the role is to establish structural support. And so I want us to sit here and say, not only is that for a person, that is for us collectively. So how then do we support the support structure? The person who's running alongside the lead pastor. So today, what I want us to do is I want us to learn, what does structural leadership look like and how do we achieve it? I want us to understand that structural leadership must be created. If this church is going to survive, structural leadership must be created, and I want you to know how to judge a leader and how to follow well. Because as this church, I asked Bianca if it was okay if I said this, and she said, most people know this, some people might not, but we're going out, and we are saying we're actively recruiting for an executive pastor. We know what we need to find the right person. Great. So just because the SLT and the lead pastor finds an executive pastor, it's on you to judge that person. It's on you to protect the flock. It's on you to watch how they walk to their car. It's on you to see when they walk out of the bathroom, if they're picking up a towel and wiping down the counter. Is it needed? No. Does it say a lot? Oh, heck yes, it does. So I want you to know these things, to know exactly who you're looking at, to protect who is coming in. So this right here is a photo. It is disputed in our family if this is me or my sister. My parents do, depending on day, it's Jasmine. No, it's Bianca. We actually don't quantifiably know, but for the sake of this presentation, this is Bianca. And with this bowl haircut and these bangs and a Barbie with one arm, and our parents dressing us like mariachis, you know. I just want to give you an insight into who she was as a child. Bianca was fun. Oh, girl was fun. And she was so sweet. Bianca was also perfect, which is very hard as a twin, because if mom got mad, look at the kitchen, why is nobody washing dishes? It was like she was an apparition. She'd be at the sink. And in our family, I don't know about your family, but like my family would just get like washed clothes, and then they would just put them on the sofa, and then they would just sit there in perpetuity, and we would call it Mount Everest. Mount Everest would sit there, and mom's like, why is nobody folding the laundry? There's Bianca. She was that person. And since childhood has always had a deep, deep love and respect for God. So you could just imagine what it was like to grow up quite counter opposite. You know, it's like there's one side of the family, that's the holy side, and on the other side of Chip or Dale, we still can't decide which, is me. And I would be probably described as an obstinate child. I, as the pastor's daughter, got kicked out of Sunday school because I debated theologically with the Sunday school teacher to such a degree that they had to call the Sunday school head leader. They pull me out. They pull my mom out. My father is teaching at Schur High School in Montebello. And my mom comes out, and I'll never forget standing in the quad, and the sun is beaming down on us, and my mom is sitting there and nodding, and because my mom is the nice, placating, yes, she is gonna sit next to me. So we walk into the amphitheater of Schur High School, and we sit in the very back with these red plush chairs, and I'm sitting there, and I'm fuming, because I was right. And she didn't have my back. I was fuming. And I was like, I'm gonna be mad at you. So I just sit there, y'all, we're talking about the book of Exodus. What 10-year-old has such a passion? And Bianca's love of God was matched only by my love to be right, okay? So my mom tells my dad, they're sitting in the car and they're telling everything that goes on. And I was like, Chicho was wrong. And I laid it out. And my dad looks at my mom and he says, she was right. Thank you. Thank you. However, that personality as a child has not left me. It's just been amplified. So we got this nice sister, the good one, the perfect one. Everybody loves one. So let's flash forward to sophomore year, or we're going into our sophomore year of high school. So we are 14 years old, freshman year. We just transferred from La Puente to La Mirada High School. We are new, nobody knows us, so Bianca and I are the weird twins. Okay, so we walk in, nobody knows us, and never mind the fact that my sister used to, I don't know what her whole vibe was, but she only dressed like she was from the 1960s. Okay. Well, she says it was vintage. It was weird. Okay, I am talking about bright lime green pants, big Peter Pan collars. The girl would just walk around like she was this iridescent butterfly. Nobody understood her. So just imagine at the end of our freshman year when we're still trying to get to know each other. And here's the thing. Hey, listen, y'all, listen. This is what the shtick that my sister and I have. I make fun of her. People want to defend her. They love her more. It's all working. All of this is working. Okay, you guys are defending your pastor. Like, this is funny, but they'll take a butter knife to me. I know. So it's sophomore year, or going into sophomore year, and she says, the thing that all of our friend group struck a chord of terror. She says, I think I want to run for sophomore class president. All of us are like, because the mean girl queen, Stacey Armijo, was freshman class president. Don't say her name? I have waited my whole life to say that name. We walked around and we shook in fear. She would walk down the hallway, we're like, oh. Because she was beautiful and perfect and glowed. She had skin like she was a Neutrogena commercial. Like she was just in honors classes and head cheerleader. It was that. So when Bianca says, hold on, let me comb out my hair. Let me put on my fake mink jacket and walk through the campus, and I think I'm gonna run against Stacey Armijo. We're like, why? She's like, I wanna make a difference. I know. So she tells my parents, and my parents are like, okay, Mija, what do we need to do? And then my sister, who played soccer, had a soccer photo with her like this on a ball. Okay, she's laying on the grass. Okay, my mom gets that in a 9x11 paper. And I know, wow. And then we take it, and it says Bianca. And then my mom takes it to Kinko's and gets, I'm not even lying, hand to heaven, like 1,000 neon, like there's yellow, pink, blue, and green. We're talking about a box this big. And then she's gonna go, and all these other people are putting up posters, but Bianca has her box. So she goes to school early in the morning because she's gonna put up her posters. I show up to school about 30 minutes later, and I walk around, and I'm like, well, I see like one pink one, like one green one, and I realize the only way a twin knows, she backed down. So I go to where I know my sister's gonna be hiding, the computer lab. I throw open the door. There's the one person sitting there at the computer, and she looks up and she sees me and she goes, I march over to her. I was like, where are your flyers? She's like, I put them up. I said, where are the flyers? And she hands them over to me, and I was like, you're gonna run and you're gonna win. I get up, and I am telling you, in 10 minutes, y'all, it was like every one step, there was like a different color flyer. The whole school looked like a neon disco ball. Bianca's face everywhere. You knew, if you didn't know who Bianca was, you knew who Bianca was after that. I am telling you, it was like, I was like, girl, I'm gonna set up and I'm gonna be your high school campaign manager. Because you're not gonna run and out here hobble. You're gonna run and you're gonna give the best run of your stinking life if you're gonna win. And so I am just sitting here telling you today that, what? An honor that I get to be a campaign manager for the kingdom. Okay. What I'm trying to do is get you on my side because I'm about to rip some things up, okay? Tell them who won. We don't need to tell them who won. Who do you think won? I'm a campaign manager. Who do you think won? Shoo. And I'm out here campaigning for churches because my daughter's going to be the first Latina president. I will start taking funds right now. Okay, so let's start here. Let me spill the tea. Oh, yeah, chisme. We love a little good gossip. I can say things that Bianca cannot say. So let's get into the real. The lead pastor is currently working, at minimum, 60 hours a week. That's just a fact. And when she's not working the 60 hours, she's thinking the rest of the hours about what is happening with you in the church. What you don't see, personal drama. And let me just tell you, this queen has stacks of receipts, and if it was me, want to know how to? Print them out on neon and put them up on every hallway. And she won't. There were things that she will never say that I think would change the entire dynamic of every person's perspective of her as a leader, her as a human, and her as a woman. And she won't say it. What she also won't say is professional drama. Because I've never experienced somebody like Bianca where she can just walk on stage. No me cae bien. Somebody's not right. Who's not right? Tell me what's right. Tell me. And then as if that's not enough, she's gonna carry it for weeks. She'll wake up in the middle of the night and be like, I need to text him. So what we have is somebody who's working 60 hours a week, somebody who is in it with her personal drama, her professional drama, and your mama's drama. Because when you're sharing things that are not affecting you, but they're affecting your life, she also carries that too. And guess what? Buck up, Buttercup. That's the job that you were called to do. Okay. But it's important that we understand what's going on behind the scenes. Also, and she is and this is what I tell her to her face, you're not going to hear me say anything about anybody that I haven't first said to their face. You might not like that I'm saying it, but I will say it. This is just how I was born. She's doing things she's not good at because nobody else will do them. But guess what? Welcome to leadership. You do things in your home that you don't want to do and that you're not good at because you're a leader. You do things you're not good at and you don't want to do with your friend group because you're the only person who will do it. And they know it. So, all we're doing right now is casting a bigger vision of what's going on behind the scenes of any leader. What I get to share is your leader right about now. So what I want to do right now is an exercise. We're going to talk about the 4 zones of leadership. And I mean this in every capacity. If you're a leader on the softball league, if you're a leader at your home, if you're a leader here at this church, if you're a leader community, if you're a leader in your family, 4 zones of leadership. I want you to walk away and you can actually say what zone you are in. So 4 zones of leadership. Number 1, incapable. I don't know how to do it and I hate it. And how does that leave you feeling? Exhausted. But how many of us, many times in leadership, are we doing things that we're incapable of? But guess what? We got to do it. Second zone of leadership is capable. I know how to do it, but I hate it. I know how to do it, but I hate it. And how does that leave you feeling? Exhausted. Exhausted. The third zone of leadership is excellence. I'm good at this. I just don't like it. You're excellent. Other people look at you and be like, you were made for this. This is it. You're doing it. And you're like, I am excellent. But the thing about being good at something but not really liking it is that while it won't leave you exhausted, it feels so heavy. And you feel so tired. Now, the 4th zone of leadership would be genius. I'm the best at this. And you know that you are the best at something when you look up at the clock and you're like, how did 3 hours go by? You stop a conversation and you say, were we just talking about this for the last 5 hours? It feels like we've been talking 5 minutes. Your zone of genius is something that comes freely to you. It is a divine gift, and that when you give it, you get energy. So, these are the 4 zones of leadership. Now, what I would love for you to do, if not now, then maybe later, is just take a good, cold, hard look about the zones of leadership in your family, zones of leadership where you are at work. If you are wildly dissatisfied with what you're doing professionally, there's a good chance that you're in zones at too much of a varying degree. Because I want to talk about a real good, cold, hard look at what the reality is for your leader in this church. So I said, on 100%, what percentage are you doing incapable work? I don't know how to do it. Capable work, I know how to do it. Both of those leave me exhausted. Tell me the percentage of work that you're excellent at, but it still feels heavy and tiring. I'm so sorry. Dane or somebody, can I get a water? That just came out of nowhere. Sounds like I'm crying. I'm crying about being incapable. What percentage am I doing excellent? And what percentage am I doing in a genius? I asked Bianca. I'm going to show you her results. Bianca says I'm doing 12% of everything I'm doing in a 60-hour work week. 12%, I don't know how to do it. But I'm doing it because nobody else can or is. I asked Bianca, well, what amount of work are you capable? So this is something she knows how to do, and it still feels exhausting. Caesar, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. 40% she's excellent at. Now, here's the tricky part about excellence, is that everybody thinks you're functioning in your genius zone. We have to ask our leaders, what gives you life? There is a chance that your leader would love to abdicate something they're excellent at so they can step into being a genius. But we don't even ask. So right now, ask your peers, what is their zones? And if you see them doing something that's not it, you could step into it. And I asked Bianca, what percentage are you doing genius work? Where the time goes by, you're the best and world class at? She's 8%. Studies will tell you that a leader should be doing 0 of what they're incapable of. 0 of what they're capable of. 20% at what they're excellent of. And 80%. A leader of a growing organization, which this is, a leader of a top 5% church, which this church is, has a leader functioning at 8% instead of 80. What might it look like for us to have a top 5% in structural support with the leader who's functioning at 80% of her zone of genius? What might that look like? Y'all think you guys are running. You don't even know you're dragging a whole cruise ship behind you. So, structural support in terms of an executive pastor. And I didn't say this at the beginning, forgive me. What I would love to do is to break this presentation into 2 parts. We're gonna be focusing on executive pastors and structural support because you're gonna figure out where you fit in that. And then the second part, we're gonna talk about communication, and this is gonna be communication in the team, in the structure, but you're gonna take these tools and you're gonna communicate better with your family, with your coworkers. And then right in the middle, we'll have Q&A. So I just kind of want to break it up so that it's not me talking the whole time and that you really put pressure on my ideology as an organization and ask hard questions about how it applies to the church. So when we talk about the structural support of an executive pastor, generally it is defined. An executive pastor focuses on administrative and operational aspects at Revere, working alongside the lead pastor. I went to ChatGPT. This is not doctrine from this church, okay? I'm just applying this generally. This is what somebody would do. Now, as her sister, I can say, and anybody who's worked close with her, nobody would say that her power play is admin. That was a really great joke that nobody laughed at. Everyone's too afraid to say, we know. And that's fine. That's not her zone of genius. Some of you have a zone of genius that is that. We're looking to bring that in to add support. These types of people, operators, this is in the business world we call an operator. We need an operator, but guess what? Operators don't make the best leaders because they're so analytical. Like they plan everything, but people can't get behind it. There's some people who are in their zone of genius who can get behind a vision, can get behind fun, can get behind a Mamma Mia lunch party at work. And if nobody got that, the Revere celebrates birthdays every month, and it was like a Mamma Mia theme, and Bianca dressed up like a cruise ship captain, and they put on like Grease in the background, and I'm like, who does that? And she's like, we're fun. It was fun, I know. Here's the thing, like attracts like. I know, y'all be fun. I know. Bianca's like, but you don't know how to have fun. And so I felt so vindicated because I had heard a scientific definition of what they call second-tier fun, which means that you don't necessarily need fun in the moment, but after having done something and accomplished it and looked back and said, that was fun. See, that was fun then. That's me. I'm just gonna do my thing. I'm gonna do my thing. But Bianca's like, no, we need to be present to the fun. If there's not glitter coming down, it wasn't enough. What this church needs is somebody to take on responsibility for strategic planning, resource management, and staff leadership. That's what this church needs. It is by the grace of God that this church is at the size it is. Y'all be outliers. Nobody knows what to do with this church. And that's a funny thing. Y'all think it's a joke, but no, nobody, I'll say this. Hold on. There are people out here who will not pick a side for a female leader when the female leader has defied the odds. No. I will also say, this has nothing to do with gender. It doesn't. Because had it been any other situation and there was a man leading and opposite things had occurred and people decided not to take a side when God's hand is clearly the covering of a church. So when nobody else stands up and God does, bye. Bye. Never forget who wasn't by your side when the chips were down. Because first they will mock you, then they will watch you, and then they're going to ask how you did it. So I did not come to play. That's why I'm not a pastor. So when they come back and ask, how did you do it? God's covering, structural support. So let's get into it. If somebody here is asking, but what really does it look like? This would make a lot of sense for Bianca, okay? Bianca needs a Dwight Schrute, okay? She wants to hold up her mug, get everyday mug, world's best boss. And Dwight needs to count the paper clips. He needs to tell when Pam is late, right? So now when we're starting talking about executive pastor, and we have feelings about Dwight and his beet farm, guess what? The church needs a Dwight Schrute. Okay. A strong executive pastor helps the lead pastor avoid burnout and build leaders. How do we judge this person is doing a good job? If Bianca is not working 60 hours a week and plagued for mind for another 60 hours a week, and she's like saying, put me in, coach, I got a word, great. Now we know that executive pastor is doing what he or she should. And if you are not being poured into by this person, I would start questioning, is this a person for this church? Because you matter. He or she cannot do what they do if you are not sustained. This is how we're judging. So how do we judge an executive pastor? In this order. This person must always glorify God, irregardless of what he or she contributed to the church. Everything good and bad that happens, he or she says, is God. God has a plan. It is always God. Empowers the team. That anytime something good happens, they're like, oh, bravo, X. It was him, and it was her, and it was her, and it was her. That is what a good leader will do. A good executive pastor is going to run ahead of the lead pastor so that if anybody was in earshot of Bianca during one of her many coming in and having an assessment of a service, of an event, why wasn't there pipe and drape? Why wasn't the flowers here? Why didn't we do this? The answer isn't going to be that we didn't think about it. The answer will be from an executive pastor is we weighed the cost, we did the considerations, and here are the facts as to why we made this decision. Keep the lead pastor in check. We need a strong leader to say, we've done the thinking. I hear you, but we've done the thinking, and here's the facts. A good leader will tell the truth at all costs. Now, I say this, and it sounds lovely until you get called out. But we have to know that the more consistent this person is at spitting the truth, the more we're going to say this person is about the church, not about themselves. And we need to watch this executive pastor speak the truth to the lead pastor in kindness and deep respect, but the truth. This is what's going to add the foundation to the church, not just to be led with feelings, but facts, projections, structure, communication. I asked Bianca coming in, and I said, okay, Bianca, so I'm very, if you can't tell by now, very goal-oriented, outcome-oriented, what's the result? So I called her and I'm like, okay, Bianca, so how do you know that this was a great session? And she says, oh, because I'm going to feel it. I was like, okay, but okay. So, and y'all, this is a lot of therapy work. I hear you. Okay. I said, so, okay, so can you give me something more? And she's like, when they ask great questions. Okay, how do we define a great question? What's a good question? You know, a good question. I know it when I hear it. I said, here's the thing about leadership. We're not in your head. So if we don't have a concrete way to measure it, we're all going to be looking at you to say, tell us what's right. Tell us what to do. A leader will say, despite my feeling, I'm going to put the hard work at adding what a positive result or outcome is. That's what a leader must do. An executive pastor needs to tell Bianca, great, we want you to feel great about Easter, but what do we actually want? Great. Then we get to ally objections and strategy and resources and team so that Bianca feels that the Spirit was there. This is the tenuous balance of a strong leader. humility to trust and listen to the team. Here's what will happen. This executive pastor is going to become the shot caller. This executive pastor is going to be really good. And what we need to watch for is that every time an executive pastor, so this is what's going to happen. An executive pastor is going to come in, and the best ones shut their mouth, and they just watch, and they listen to the congregation, and they see. And then what happens is a good executive pastor is going to say, I don't know if I would do it this way, but I'm going to watch y'all do it. And then a good executive pastor is going to say, this is what I predict will happen from a systemic level. And when that executive pastor called every shot, then the team will say, okay, we trust you a little bit. We trust you a little bit. And then what happens, an executive pastor over years becomes so good at calling the shots that they depend only on their shots. So what we need is somebody who has the humility and trust to listen despite all logic and reason but I feel like every chair needs a seat covering with a bow. Okay, logically that makes no impact whatsoever. But if the experienced team has said, hey, well, actually every bow during Christmas represents us funding a child in Ethiopia, this person needs to take a step back and say, okay, I don't agree, but let me listen and see. And then if the church has an experience and people are like, we love the bows, then all of a sudden a good executive leader says, okay, I'm going to trust you a little bit more. That's what a good executive leader is going to do. Finally, a good executive leader will hold the line. What we've seen specifically in this church and what I have seen from behind the scenes is that people say they hold the line and they don't. People will say we got your back and they didn't. People will say we'll stay until the end. And they haven't. And people will say, we're in it right now, but they already have a foot outside. Like, I could see it from the outside. What we need is an executive pastor who will say, I will stand by this team. I will stand by this executive pastor. And if you come for one, you're coming for all. We need somebody that strong to run a headwind when things are completely counter opposite of what the most normal churches look like. So if I am telling you this is how we judge a leader of a structural support system and hopefully how you judge yourself, how do we hold our executive pastor to do all of this? All right, this is going to be the unfun part, but I'm going to let you know. I actually told my sister, I was like, I didn't know I was going to be doing Lead for the Long Haul. I said, I want to talk to the church staff. I want to go in and tell them the future. And tell them not to hold or have feelings about this executive pastor. I don't want there to be animosity because it will come. It will come. This church has been built on sugar and conchas and hot chocolate and ice cream sundaes and a pastor filled with the word, and that has been good and it has been fun. But what got the church here won't get the church there. And so if we become a revolving door of congregants that stay at 3,000, that's great. You're still in the top 5% of churches. But what has God called us to do? To be radically different. So if we're going to be radically different, we have to change our behavior. So check out the staff. I'm going to tell this to you right now. About 40% of the current staff will not be here in 2 years. That's what structural support breaks. And it's not on them. It is not on the staff. The staff agreed to join a church at the current state. And when the church needs to change, they get to say, listen, I bless you, but I'm just not about that. That's too much structure for me. No problem. But if this church is going to become a bona fide church in the top 5% of structural support, it must change. So if these changes are coming and this person comes in and demands an SOP, in the business world, standard operating procedure, we got to run this like it's boot camp. If we're building an army for God's kingdom, you think that they're just going to come up all sloppy and sweats and not know how to do things? No. Our standard operating procedures at the church is Sweet Dane. Bianca did a little Instagram story, and he's out there, and I said, I want Dane to make me a cup of coffee when I get there. Like, ooh, this is cute. I like it. His job, if he is running that ministry, is if on Sunday, for some reason, he couldn't show up, and I was the only person here, I need to go to a resource. And it says, turn on the light. You will find the on button for all 4 machines in the lower right-hand corner. Open the coffee bags. Put the coffee in the grinder. Y'all think this is silly. Your SOP should bring somebody in from the church and says, I want to volunteer. Great. Here's how you do it. And I don't need to watch you do it. Because we have a standard operating procedure. Who we are as Revere, boom, an SOP. An XP is going to know workable hours for the staff. And I'm saying this to you because 90+% of you are not on staff. I want you to know that your XP is going to guard God's money. We out here having a pastor who's working 60 hours a week, and if somebody's showing up 25 minutes late, taking a 90-minute lunch, leaving 20 minutes early, I know you got called into ministry, but what you have here is a job, not for a person, but for the kingdom. So do not waste that time. If your XP comes to you and says, I think I'm going to need you to come in on time and I'm going to need you to leave on time, you got to listen. He's not speaking on behalf of a pastor. He's speaking on relation to God's people's money. This person's going to build systems, and systems hurt. Not because they're not good. It just changes. Well, that's not the way we've always done it. Buck up, buttercup. We're not going to be that old church anymore. So a system might hurt, but the system is intended to build. An XP, I say this to the leaders in the room, an XP is going to ask every person on staff to fulfill what their job is. And I know it sounds so silly, but let me tell you, as a leader of an organization, you want to surprise and delight your manager at work, your division director at work. Do what your job says to do. So often what we do is we step into roles and we're like, this other 20%, it's just not that important. It's not. It's there for a reason. And you get to earn the right to have an opinion about the job description the minute you're fulfilling all of it. Do not come to me and have an opinion about the 20% you're not even doing. So an XP better hold everybody accountable. And an XP is walking around, and if part of it in the coffee ministry is to wipe down the counters after the service, and this person comes to you and says, hey, can you wipe down the counters? Or, hey, I'm gonna grab a rag and you grab a rag, let's wipe it down. This is part of our SOP. Don't be offended. That person is asking you to do what has been stated. Expects you to update them without prompting. Staff, and everybody who supports the staff. If I am asking you for an update, I have a problem with you. That was too loud, B. Too loud, B. Too loud. Remember, good cop, bad cop. Okay. My job here is to say the dang truth. Okay? I shouldn't be asking you for follow-ups. I shouldn't be asking you for updates. I should be getting everything in real time. You should have a standing recurring message on your calendar that says update. And what I do with that update as a leader is on me, but it's your job to tell me what's up. If I have to follow up on a deadline, I have a problem with you. I have a problem with you. Not that you didn't hit it in a deadline, that you didn't tell me 48 hours in advance. You tell me 48 hours in advance and I start seeing a pattern, then the system's broken. So me as an XP, no, I'm not gonna be, not gonna be an XP. Nobody here wants me to be an XP, I'll tell you that much. Everyone's like, we stopped going to that church. You need to tell me where you're stuck, and a good XP fix the system. Because if it's recurring, it's not you, it's the system. But you can't tell me that until you've actually done the system. And you've told me in advance when you're not gonna hit something. Now, for those of you who do not report to either XP or an SLT, your job, if you volunteer, is you tell your lead. And then it's on your lead to tell their lead, and on them to tell their lead. That is structural support from preschool to nursery, to college, to coffee, to new believers. The church can't fix the structure if we don't know what's happening with the people at the ground level. We need you. This is like Jerry Maguire. Help me help you. But we don't know what to fix if we're not hearing from you. So let's keep the main thing the main thing. We're going to get into a little bit of Q&A. It can be Q&A about anything you darn well please. You can talk about how this applies to you at work or at home or here at the church. When you support your leader supports the directors support the SLT, who supports the executive pastors, who supports the lead pastor to be in their zone of genius. I want you to ask yourself, if you are involved in ministry, ask yourself what zone of genius that puts you in. I will tell you that I am fully incapable of being in the greeters ministry. I watch all you out there nodding, waving with the signs on social media, twirling them up. Hi, hi, hi. I am incapable. Lord have mercy. If you put me in that ministry, I would do it, but at the end of it, I would just be so exhausted. I want you to choose a ministry that allows you to be in your zone of genius so that on a Sunday or a midweek, you're like, let's do that again. Yes, please. Fill in the gap where the gaps need to be filled, but also cultivate and see and spot excellence and genius in others and help them build the structure of the church.
See, A lot of people think that I am intense, but I am not the intense one. It is Jasmine. So yes, friends, she opened up a can of some goodness and she poured it out on us. Tomorrow, we're going to be continuing on with part 2 of that leadership infusion that she gave for a leadership cohort that I lead called Leading for the Long Haul. And I can't wait for you to join in. Again, if there was something that was interesting or blessed you or a tidbit that you want to share, go ahead and tag at Jasmine Star and at Bianca Waters Official on Instagram or on TikTok. Thanks, friends, and we'll catch you tomorrow.